Hey, friends! Well, from Salt Lake City, Utah, it's Thank God I'm Atheist, a podcast exploring religion, politics, and current events from two atheists who are just trying to survive life in these United States, especially trying to survive today because Frank is sick.
Oh, I'm so sorry, everybody. My voice is brutal.
He made me do the intro all by myself because the voice is just rough. So.
Well, I was sitting there and I'm like, I can't come into this show going, "Hey, everybody," like some poor first time listener, right? Would just be like
a 90-year-old man just
like,
hey everybody. That weak, sad little voice of his. All right. Well, sorry that you're sick, Frank.
Thank you, Dan.
We will edit out all of the worst of your sounds.
God, I know. It's that's true. That will happen.
I'll have to hear them, but our listeners will not.
Yeah. I'm sick, but sort of energetically I feel pretty good, but I am worried about my voice. Yeah, because I already feel it. It kind of hurts a little. I've been already talking with Dan more than I've spoken in like days. So,
and just so that you all know, that this means that we will be doing a slightly truncated show this week because we don't want to run him out. But there's a reason why you're sick, Frank.
Yeah,
and that is because this is the TGIA episode 666, and Satan himself has decided to step in and mess around.
I have been blessed by the Dark Lord's hand,
touched by his forked tail.
More likely, there's like a little voodoo doll with a pin through its neck at the moment. Because
it was probably God. Like Satan likes us.
Oh, that's true.
It's probably the Lord punishing us for doing 666 episodes. And
but we also
it.
Couldn't skip it, right? Like,
right.
Or have a guest host
not.
Or anything because it's just too important. Not. We have to get through this.
As a matter of fact, our last topic, our segment at the end of the show, if we get to it, is going to be about Satan himself.
Nice.
So,
all right. Well, Dan.
Yeah.
I've got a story for you. I got something that happened this week.
Hit me with it.
You know, or are aware of Jeffrey Holland.
Oh, Mormon apostle and sort of quivering Jello mold Jeffrey Holland.
I have to say, he is my least favorite of the Mormon apostles.
When you trade Mormon apostle trading cards, you're trying to get rid of Holland.
Yeah, I don't like Holland. I think he's a hateful human being. He's a prick. Yeah. He just seems like a prick, right? Like a real, just self-important, just full of himself. He like this old white guy has never been challenged in his life, right?
No.
And anytime that he has been, it was probably not a good scene. But anyway, so
I'll be honest. When you told me that you were going to be talking about him, I was like, wait, that guy's still alive? But alas, he is. Anyway, go on.
Yeah,
what are you going to tell us about?
About 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, he delivered the famous musket speech.
Oh, that's right.
Tore up the Mormosphere. This was a speech at Brigham Young University given to faculty, largely, who was in attendance. And he had this line in it where he asked them to take up their intellectual muskets, so to more or less, to defend the church, right? Especially its doctrine of family and marriage and the union of a man and a woman and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, this was in the context of like hating on gay people and like trying to protect the church against the queers and stuff. So,
and the often forgotten part of the or less talked about part of this talk was when he called out by name a former student of BYU, Matt Easton, who at the graduation, he was a speaker at graduation. I think he must have been...
He was valedictorian.
Valedictorian, yeah. and in which he came out during the graduation speech and said that he was proud to be a gay son of God. And during Holland's musket speech, he
came out of the closet as a dickhead.
Yeah, he just openly, publicly shat on this kid.
Yeah.
And so he's just he's a former president of BYU, and just all around piece of shit. Anyway, so he went on to Sherry Dew's podcast this week. Maybe you don't know who Sherry Dew is out there in podcast land, but
You lucky sons of bitches.
She is, I think she was at one time the president of the Relief Society, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she is now, she's been made the CEO of Deseret Book, which is the church-owned bookstore.
And underwear shop.
And yeah, that's right. Temple Garments. You go to Deseret Book to get your Mormon underwear. Anyway, so he went on to her little podcast, which is published by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they talked about this speech. And he said, oh boy, it's offensive and just so dumb. He says, now, if anybody was hurt, I know some were in that exchange, then I was hurt.
What? Oh, wow.
Yeah. He says, yeah, which also sounds like you could take that a couple different ways, actually. He's saying that he's sort of sharing in their pain. Right. He says that he doubted anybody has had more people in an office, in a chair, weeping with them than I have in that administration building, meaning the BYU administration building, with kids who are struggling with gender issues. No one can say that I do not love them, but I am also and was then responsible for the direction of a university, and I just wanted to get the supporting doctrine of the church across. And so
someone can say that you do not love them, and that someone is me. I can say that. I do say that.
So he says, you know, I have another one of the lines is, and I have wept for those 3 years. Right. That's how you got those jowls. That's how you got those giant bags under your eyes.
From all the
Jeff
weeping.
Holland was from so much weeping.
I'm sure he got emotional, but I'm guessing it was just he would just scream at the top of his lungs about how everybody is so kind to the gay people and why
don't they like me? Why do people not like me? I'm an old white man. What is there to not like about me? Anyway, what's important to point out is that in no time during this speech or this interview with Sherry Dew, where he's like talking about these, I cry with the gay people. I care for the gay community. I know that people were hurt. He acknowledges that people were hurt by his words, and he never apologizes.
Of course not. They don't.
He knows his words hurt people, and he refuses to apologize. This is such a moral man, such a great example of how to be a human being. People, Mormons should just feel so lucky that they have the most wonderful Jeffrey R. Holland near the top of their church, so that they can bask in his holy jowliness,
his righteous weepitude.
Yeah. Anyway, I saw that and I was like, fuck Jeffrey Holland.
Yeah, what a shit burger.
Anyway.
Anyway.
And I will now pause talking
And I will now turn the time over to Dan. That's a very Mormon thing to say. I'm going to take a really interesting new study has just come out, has just been published. A paper was published in the Journal for the Scientific Study of Religion that basically is it's looking at Christian nationalism here in the United States and elsewhere. But this paper largely looks at in the United States, and the paper is called Christian Nationalism and Violence Against Religious Minorities in the United States, a quantitative analysis. And what they've done is they've looked at lots of different things, but they found moments when a politician, a leader, someone important in the U.S. made a Christian nationalist type comment about violence or it's not even that coded, these messages, when they say horrible things. Like, for instance, Ted Cruz back in 2015 told a crowd, "Any president who doesn't begin every day on his knees isn't fit to be commander-in-chief of this nation." Oh. So anytime they basically said you have to be Christian to go here, to be of valid use here in the United States, they would take those speeches and then sort of track violence in sort of the immediate aftermath of those speeches and correlate. And they found that states where senators articulated support for Christian nationalism had between 1.4 and 1.5 times the number of Christian nationalist attacks.
Really?
Per 1 unit increase in theoretically central independent variable. The last bit is a bit of gibberish, but and that's not a huge spike in violence. And it's also not, it doesn't establish causation. It just establishes a correlation. But
I'll take it.
It's clear. Look, all this does is confirm what we all intuitively know, which is that these people, when you activate that Christian tribalism, that exceptionalism, that us versus them notion, guess what your loonies are going to do? Because you've got a lot of loonies, and they're going to start beating up religious minorities, including atheists. But atheists can fly under the radar. You and I, unless, they know who we are, nobody knows what our belief system is. But, a Sikh person walking around with a turban and a beard might as well have a target on his back for these people.
Yeah.
So, I'm not, this paper could also have been titled "Duh," but what it points out is that, literally the words of these, because look, I don't think Ted Cruz gives a fuck about Jesus or Christianity. He's just trying to play to his crowd and, win at politics, which is all he cares about. But those words have a huge impact out in the world, and they actually cause violence with these, Proud Boys and QAnon people and, these MAGA ding-dongs are out there doing crimes and hurting people and terrorizing people.
Yeah.
So there you go. If your uncle at Thanksgiving is like, it's not hurting anybody, you can say there is data to show that it is.
Then that'll shut him up.
That'll because if there's one thing that the MAGA crowd responds to, it's data.
Yeah, they love real evidence. They might do their homework, but they don't care about the evidence.
No, they definitely don't.
Dan.
Yeah.
have you been following Pope Francis's tour of the Pacific as closely as I have been?
Oh my God.
It's so good. It's so good. He is just poping it up.
I did see that he made it to Timor-Leste, so the big bucks paid off.
Good.
He did come.
They lured him with the multi-million-dollar dais. Yes, indeed. Well, he also went to Papua New Guinea, which is also in the Pacific. And one of his requests, apparently, through this whole trip, has been that he wants to go to the remote places. He wants to go where the poverty is, right? Because,
who doesn't? That's the best part.
When you're out touring the world, show me the poor people.
Jeeves, bring me to the poors, please.
I've been hearing so much about them lately.
I'm fascinated.
Well, he went to a place called Vanimo, which is on the northwest coast of Papua New Guinea. He was flown there on a Royal Australian Air Force C-130, and flew in, spoke to a crowd of about 20,000 people who had gathered out in a field, and they gave him a lovely little hat, which he wore with pride. It's not I'm sure it's traditional, but it looks a little silly on him. But
I just looked it up. That's not a little hat. That's a whole bird.
Yeah, well,
they put on his head.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Anyway, he had a message for them. He told them to be like an orchestra, so that all members of the community come together harmoniously to overcome rivalries. Apparently, this part of Papua New Guinea has a lot of rival groups that sort of get a little violent with each other. And he was just asking them to be good to each other. And he says that by doing so, if you're like an orchestra, then that might help end personal, family, and tribal divisions to, quote, drive out fear, superstition, and magic.
Oh my God.
To put an end to destructive behaviors such as violence, infidelity.
Superstition and magic is your whole thing.
Wait for it. Exploitation. Alcohol and
alcohol, exactly.
Alcohol and drug abuse. Evils which imprison and take away the happiness of so many of our brothers and sisters, even in this country. Yeah. Superstition and fucking magic. Dan.
Oh my God.
How dare this guy get up? A church which only very recently, all things considered, disavowed doctrines such as transubstantiation, right?
They didn't disavow it.
I thought they did. They don't believe that it literally becomes the body of Christ anymore.
Oh, I believe they do.
Not literally.
Well, now I have some research to do. Because you're ruining my joke. I was about to say, you guys stop doing your magic. Now I'm going to go over here and turn this bread into Jesus.
I mean, they might as well believe it, but I think it has.
I mean, they pray to like the finger of Saint Ambrose or whatever.
Absolutely.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I mean, magic.
Praying to saints and asking for intervention and crap. That's magic.
Yeah. Frank, magic is what somebody else does. When I do it, it's miracles and religion.
And
but
Jesus.
when brown people do it, it's spooky magic. You gotta give it up.
Yep. But also, I just love that he slipped in exploitation as well from such an exploitative organization.
Right?
That has just last week we talked about how they basically have an unofficial policy that when their priests exploit people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They ship them off to the South Pacific, to this region that he is visiting.
Oh my God.
And so it's just, sometimes you just have to stop and listen to yourself, Mr. Pope.
Mr. Pope. Dear Mr. Pope.
Dear Mr. Pope.
I also like the message of can't we all just get along is so it is so tone deaf just on its face, regardless of if you then get racist about their religious traditions and practices or whatever. Well, like just the listen, why don't you all, if you're all like an orchestra, everything will be fine. Like that is so infantilizing and bullshit.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing is what it is.
Well then, Dan, why don't you listen to this?
Oh, no.
You who live on this large island in the Pacific Ocean may sometimes have thought of yourselves as a faraway and distant land.
What? Oh my God! In case you didn't catch it, dear listener, no one thinks of their home as far away and distant. That's not how where I live works.
He continues, situated on the edge of the world.
What?
Yet today the Lord wants to draw near to you, to break down distances, to let you know that you are at the center of his heart and that each one of you is important to him. He's somehow found you in this like
what the fuck is he on about?
Ridiculously remote part of the world that you
because
people
it's
live in.
An island? Because I mean it's obviously because he can't conceive of even locals not thinking of that place as being anything other than
total
like exotic or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just the normal, that's just how they live. That's just their lives. He should say that, give that same speech in Sicily.
Yeah.
You on the edge of the world or whatever. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, the Bible does say the earth has edges, so maybe he's just going with that.
Yeah, totally. Anyway,
Good Lord.
So a great success. The Pope is having a great success in Papua New Guinea. Personally, I need the Pope to be going on these trips all the time.
Right?
Like this has been wildly entertaining for me.
I can't. You know what? If you are going to be that tone deaf, your metaphor can't be about music. That's all I'm saying. All right. Well, Frank, I don't know if you watched, but we had a presidential debate. Well, presidential as in it's a debate between the candidates for the presidency. I don't know that it felt particularly presidential to me in manner or tone, but
it was still fun to watch.
Oh my God, it was something. And much to the chagrin of many, it's largely considered that Kamala Harris walked away with it.
Oh, yeah.
I personally don't think she did as well as many people think I think she did well. I thought she could have done. I thought she could have slaughtered him, and instead she just beat him up a little bit.
Yeah,
but
it's probably an interesting calculation that they.
Yes.
I'm sure they discussed this to length of like
they got a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
And she did good. She did well enough that like it's everyone knows she won that thing.
Well, I mean, she proved her point, right? She proved the point that this. I'm not going to just steal this outright. This was on the Ezra Klein show. She had the point. The Democrats have been making a point that Trump is easily manipulated, right?
Yeah.
And so forth and so on. All those character faults that we're perfectly aware of. And so she went on stage and demonstrated, right?
She might as well have walked up to him and just pushed on his body as though there are buttons, physical buttons, because she pushed all of his buttons.
He's easy to agitate. right?
Yeah.
And she got under his skin, and I think that was the whole thesis of the night.
Yeah.
And that was the takeaway, right? Like I at a certain point when I was like, damn, there's just going to be nothing substantive about this, is there? And I was like, that is so fucking not the point.
No.
And they in the prep, they were probably like, this isn't about policy. This is about how fragile of a human being this man is.
Do you think in the Harris camp they were like, do you think we can get him to say they're eating the cats and dogs? No, you can't get him to say it. Well, we're not the only ones who know that Kamala Harris won. One Lance Wallnau, astute listeners will remember us mentioning him many times. The MAGA pastor who has, who basically prophesied at one point that Trump would stay president and then was wrong. And then, but he has been on the Trump train from the beginning. He was welcomed into Trump's White House, and he is on board. He has an explanation for how Kamala Harris was able to beat.
Yeah, really?
The former president.
Let's see. She worked hard. She prepared.
No.
She has things like
witchcraft, my friend. It was witchcraft.
Of course.
And that is his word, not my own. He tweeted apparently a whole series of tweets. And basically he said, when I say witchcraft, I am talking about what happened tonight. Occult empowered deception, manipulation, and domination. Now, when I read that tweet, what I read is A, she dominated, correct, and B, he believes her witchcraft to be more powerful than Trump's godliness. I'm just going to point out, he is conceding that whatever whatever Jesus forces are working in Trump's corner, and he certainly believes that they are. Those forces are nothing compared to the power of Kamala Harris's witchcraft.
Oh my God! I mean, yeah, that's pretty amazing to put it in that perspective.
Yeah, I mean that's what he's conceding. It is. Yeah, this is the guy who. Do you remember for a while there they were comparing Trump to David? He's going to be King David, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, he's a really bad guy. We'll compare him to Cyrus, who was not a good guy, but ended up doing good things for the Jewish people or whatever." Yeah, he's such a dick, this Lance Wallnau, but man, it's such an easy. It's so easy when it's a woman to be like, it just seems, but it seems antiquated. It seems like you can't point at her and say she's a witch. We've done that. Like, if Monty Python made fun of that back in the 70s, you can't pull it back out.
Oh,
that old canard. She's a witch.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Well, there you go. Hey, we're only doing two stories each. So if you would like to write into us about any of these stories, please feel free to do so. Podcast at thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There's more show coming up. And don't you want to just listen to more of this beautiful voice?
Well, Frank, we're recording a little bit early this week because you and I are both going out of town, so we don't have too much in the way of emails or voicemails, but we'll get to them. This is supposed to be a short show anyway, so we're going to get to the ones we have.
Okay.
You remember last week you talked about a Christian ding dong named Bruxy Cavey.
Oh yeah.
And I sort of, my eyes crossed at the name Bruxy. John has written in to say, hey guys, before I Googled Bruxy Cavey, I was hell-bent on changing my name to Bruxy.
Oh.
Now you've spoiled it for me.
Oh.
Thanks, Frank.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, now we don't have a listener named Bruxy. And I think that's okay. I think that's probably fine. And our friend from way across the pond, Taru, wrote in to say, hello, Frank and Dan. Out of curiosity, I watched the first episode of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Oh, dear God.
Highlights were the snippets of lovely Utah scenery and the now demolished Provo Temple.
Oh.
I'm impressed, Taru, that you picked up that was the Provo one. Well done on you. That was a funky building. Wish the church had kept it.
Yeah.
They could have just built another one, right? Not like they're short on funds. Lowlights include not enough Mormon things and too many TikTok dances. TikTok dances, it turns out, are now the Mormon things.
Oh.
I think that's basically what Mormonism is going to be from now on.
Sorry, everyone.
So yeah, did you watch any? I've watched one episode of it. That may be all I have the stomach for.
I'll have to reactivate Hulu in order to, and it's on our to-do list. We just haven't finished with our current streaming service. That's what we're doing these days. Is we're rotating. So
it's just as bad as all reality TV, which I cannot stand. There's the whole genre of reality TV where it's very obvious that like the producers of the show are goading them on to have drama and setting it up so that everything's as big and dramatic as possible. And I just can't. I don't have the stomach for it, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But it does show a bunch of Mormon women definitely not being Mormon. Like at all. These young 20-somethings and they're making a fortune doing their mom talk stuff and whatever. They are, however, there's nothing perceivably Mormon about them except that they keep saying it.
And they say mountain.
Some of them do. So there you go. All right. Well, do we have anyone to thank?
We do, Dan. We have a new patron on Patreon. By the name of Benjamin, who signed up as a teacher.
Oh, Benjamin, thank you so much.
Teacher Benjamin. So,
it's the only way that we make this show go. It's the only income we get from this thing, because we don't do ads or whatever. So if you appreciate our show and if you can afford it, please think about going to patreon.com you could. The easier way is to go to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and click on the donate. It's /donate. You can click on the thing, or you can go to /donate.
There you go.
And there you go. You can go and become a patron, or you can become a. There's multiple ways.
Yeah.
There's multiple ways.
Indeed.
And we got one more person to thank.
We do, Dan. Embrace yourself, everybody. All right, we have our top donor to thank. Our Lord and Savior, Davis.
That was my favorite. More show coming up. Oh, Frank.
Dan.
You done been cursed by that devil. Devil come in and cursed you.
Isn't it amazing that the devil curses, right? But the devil also can bestow amazing gifts, right?
Right? Why have I never gotten any of the devil's gifts?
Yeah.
I want them.
Yeah.
I'll take them.
He's a wily one. That old Lucifer.
Did you have a set? What was your relationship to the devil as a child. Because I feel like that's when the devil first becomes this sort of part of our psyche.
Yeah, I was terrified.
Were you?
I was terrified. I figured he like always around, or at least one of his minions, always tempting me and prodding me to do little childish sins,
little bits of evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, me too. I was an impulsive kid. I had ADHD and whatever. One time I remember I just jumped on my friend's bike and rode it around the block and then took it back to his house. And he was there waiting for me when I came back. And he was like, what are you doing? Why are you on my bike? And I got so scared. And I said, the devil made me do it.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought I'd be in trouble.
Wow. I mean, your ADHD probably did present that in that way, right?
Yeah.
There was probably a lot of like, I don't know, there's probably been a lot of confusion through the years of people, thinking that just a rambunctious little kid or a kid who can't focus has got the devil.
Or someone on the spectrum who they're nonverbal or they don't communicate well or they don't pick up on cues and so they're weird or whatever. Yeah. That's the devil.
Yeah.
It's funny. We're talking about the devil because this is our 666th episode. But we should point out that's not about the devil. The number 666 is not the devil. It is the beast.
Oh.
It's not even the Antichrist.
What?
In Revelation, that is the number of the beast, which we now know is just Nero. He was writing in thinly veiled code about Emperor Nero.
Wow.
John the Revelator was.
Wow.
So, I mean, using gematria, which sort of, all of the Hebrew letters also have numbers. And so if you write out Nero Caesar, then you get 666.
Oh my God.
I mean, so that's dumb. It's very funny that like literally Christians who are terrified of the devil don't even parse it out. They don't like all things bad or scary. They just lump into one character that isn't right. Like Lucifer is different than Satan, is different than the beast, is different than the Antichrist. These are all like different entities. But boy, if you ask most Christians, it's just the devil. So there you go. It's funny. I just thought of that we're doing a whole thing about the devil, and we should be talking about Nero. We should be doing a whole final segment about the reign of Emperor Nero.
Well, maybe next time.
Maybe next time we do 666 episodes, we're gonna talk about Nero just to have fun. I think what's amazing about the devil is that, so yeah, you and I, when we were children, just living in terror. First of all, that's not an okay thing to say to your kids.
No, it's not. It's a horrible way to raise a kid.
Yeah.
Right. To instill deep fear. Right. And this to give your child this sense that like there's this thing that's always present and watching. Right.
And it's going to get you.
It's going to get you. It also like is always goading you to like do things instead of like talking about what your, normal, inner voices are really doing. Right.
Yeah.
And what's actually going on in your brain and all that. And that we have dark thoughts. It's okay. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then,
and also like teaching kids how to regulate their emotions and like you are in charge of your emotional state, and you may not be able to control what emotions come in, but you can control your reaction to it. But instead of all of that, it's just Boy, you got the devil in you.
Indeed.
It's not a helpful thing. It's and also like telling a child, like children fear punishment, period. But like telling them that if they do a thing, they might burn in hell forever.
Yeah.
Or whatever. That's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
That's child abuse. I don't like it.
It really is. I mean, it definitely took its toll on me. Fortunately, Mormons don't really do the whole burn in hell thing, but
that's true.
But I don't know that it would have mattered, right?
Yeah,
I was terrified.
It's a distinction without a difference to some extent because they make it sound like something horrible is going to happen and it is eternal.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, at least it doesn't involve burning.
Yeah, yeah. True.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like this devil concept at all. And it also like there's this sense that it kind of takes the responsibility away from the person to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not sure how they navigate that, because if it's the devil and the devil is very powerful and can get you, and you get got and you do something awful, how can you be to blame for that?
Well, you weren't strong enough.
Yeah.
He tempted you and you weren't strong enough. And you gave in to temptation. So you are bad and you are going to hell.
Well, whose fault is it that I'm not strong enough? God should have made me stronger.
Nah, doesn't work that way. That's all on you, Dan.
I guess so. I don't know. It's amazing how much power the devil had right up until I stopped believing in him. And then he couldn't get me anymore. It's weird.
So how well did your little excuse, the devil made me do it, how well did that work?
Oh, I don't think that it was an issue for my friend. He was just like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, I think I ran away. I wouldn't know how my friend reacted. I just like, I was just, it was all I could think of in the moment, I think. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think of all of, did you ever watch, I didn't, but I saw clips of the documentary, what is it, Hell House or whatever?
Oh yeah.
Where they terrorize children into thinking that they're going to go to hell or what?
Didn't we do episode 6 or 7 was probably
Probably.
I think there was a very early episode of the show where we talked about, I think we watched the show, didn't we? And then talked about it. I don't know. That was, I don't think I 13 years ago.
But yeah, it's not, it really is just the most, first of all, it is a stupid theology. It's just a patently stupid theology, because the truth is that it's not Satan that sends you to hell. It's God. Like God's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Satan's just there. I don't even know what Satan's doing. Satan's there like, do something bad. Ooh.
He's the robot devil. I mean,
yeah.
Did you ever watch Futurama? Was that reference lost on you?
It was lost on me.
Okay. All right.
Alas. It just seems so stupid. It's childish and it's dumb and I don't like it. And I defy the devil. But I don't. But more than that, I defy the concept of the devil as being silly and sort of disqualifying as a theology to take seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what
I mean, yeah, it's pretty useless. And I don't like it. I'm just
there you go. Hot takes coming in from Thank God I'm Atheist. Well, we don't like the devil or the idea of the devil.
Yeah, but I mean, it is interesting that you point out that God's the bad guy, really, because ultimately, at the end of the day, like in the Christian narrative, like once you're out of it and you look at it, it is like, oh yeah, God is the bad one. The devil seems far more interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Like the people who supposedly are going to hell are way more interesting and fun, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole thing just gets flipped and you're just like, oh, that stuff, it's so ridiculous that anybody like falls for it. in this day and age.
But they do. I mean, the whole, all of the work of the Satanic Temple would be for naught if they weren't actually genuinely, if these grown people weren't
like really scared, genuinely
a little bit afraid of the boogeyman. Alas. All right. Well, friends, thank you so much for tuning in to our program. I'm going to attempt to do the outro all by myself without Frank's help.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to say bye, guys.
So to support the show, go to thankgodimatheist.com/donate. Our show is edited by Roger Gowdy, music by the Red Rock Hot Club and Gordon Johnston. Thanks to all y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Thank God I'm Atheist is a production of TGIA Media, LLC, copyright 2024, all rights reserved.